So, welcome to Thursdays with Mike. Note at the top of this here is the fact that I've been in a news bubble for the past couple of days because I've been reading Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's new book, Regime Change, and so it is slow going because I'm I'm it's got so many names in it. I'm constantly having to look people up and going, is that person still working? So that's been my world. When I've come up for air, the thing that I've seen shared on Twitter the most in the past 24 hours is apparently some people were mean to Caitlin Clark. So I would like to say to one of Caitlin Clark's biggest fans, hello, Mike, and can you tell me what that story is about?
Yeah, in the game last night, Caitlin went out at the end of the third quarter with a back injury. They have one of the other players and suspended her for a game. They were going for a ball. Caitlin went down. This other player came down on top of her, shoved her hand into Caitlin's throat in that cluster that happened.
Wow.
And they've determined, that it's if you see the video, yeah, it's a real more than a cat fight. It's kind of a cluster. They really, it's been a lot of energy in the games. The women's league is interesting to watch because they don't just run and shoot and make a basket. There's conflict, there are emotions, there are egos, there are missed baskets, they're up and down. It's a fast game. It's fun to watch, but yeah, some things happen that are unfortunate.
Well, all I
And the
know is
coach
that
made
there are people who are saying there should be charges pressed and that she should. Anyhow, it's that's what I saw again on a quick coming up for air on Twitter.
yeah.
Our topic for today is discussing the financing of plays at different I want to discuss it at different levels. And we're going very general here. We're not going on to, well, this play cost X, but my first question for you is because you were doing plays mostly at the high
Mhm.
school level, did you consider what plays you were able to do based on whether or not you had the budget to do it?
Not so much because straight plays were not that expensive to do at the time. And I'm sure it's gone up, and I haven't looked at royalties recently. You would pay $75 a performance to do a straight play. So if you're doing three performances, you're looking at what? $225 in your budget for royalty. Then you had to buy scripts on top of that, which are usually $5 a piece. So multiply by the number of scripts you need for cast members, for director, for sound, lights, props, whatever. Um, 10, 15, 20 scripts. Maybe you're looking at another $100 in scripts. And then you start to put on set costs,
That's what I was going. I
construct.
assumed the set costs were greater than the script costs, but they weren't generally.
Well, it depends because I was trained in college theater and we ran our high school theater the same way was that, you build things and reuse them. So you built stair units that could be reused. You have the run of stairs, maybe three steps, and then maybe whatever, six, seven, eight steps. You just leg them up to whatever size you need, put legs on them, and create your set by putting the pieces together. Flats, you'd reuse, repaint the flats. From this show, it's going to look like this. Take it apart. Next time, bring it out and repaint it. Put together and repaint it. Platforms built to be reused. So in theater construction, it's not going to be like household construction because you've got to have it light, strong enough to do what you need, reusable, storable, knock it down, store it, and reuse it. So you've got a lot of things that are in common sizes. So your flats are probably a particular width, particular height. You have a whole set of those, so you can put them together to do what you want. Platforms, you might have some 2x4, 2 foot by 4 foot rectangular platforms, 4 foot square platforms, maybe a 4x6 platform, and 4x8 platforms. If you're building for a house, you're probably going to make those out of 2x6 and 3/4 inch ply. The problem with that is that's great for a house. They weigh a ton.
Right.
They weigh a ton. So in theater construction, you're going to build them out of 2x4s and 3/4 inch ply, not half inch ply. Half inch is a little light. 3/4 ply, 2x4s. When we did it, you nailed them together, the frames, and you held the legs on at whatever height you want. So 2x4 legs, a foot, a 2 feet, whatever, 3 feet high, whatever you needed, 6 feet high if you have a tall platform. Um, and we use carriage bolts. Everything now they do with screws, right? Everything is screwed together because it's so easy to put long wood screws and zap it together with an impact drill. So construction has changed, but a platform made out of 2x4 3/4, that's handleable, not by one person for 4x8, but for other people. So now your construction costs are big every time you build a platform because plywood is not cheap. But once you've got it, you reuse it.
Hmm.
And so your production budget, I don't know, I would probably do a musical. Now I'm talking a long time ago because you know how old I am. We might do a musical for $2,000 to $3,000. There are schools that would do at that time musicals $10,000. Today, I don't know what it would cost because your royalties are so much higher today. And that's for music. And for a straight play, again, a straight play we probably do for some hundreds of dollars. Or because we were buying paint, probably reusing flats and sets, so we didn't have to pay for that the second time. You got your scripts, your royalty, maybe some props. We could do it for some hundreds of dollars on the scale that we did at Benton Community. Musicals, the royalty for a musical now, boy, I have no idea. It might be two, three, $4,000 just for royalty for a musical. Then you usually have to buy your rental materials, your scripts, and your music. That's usually rentals. You're going to pay royalty and you're going to pay rental. That's on the printed material. And then if you don't have an orchestra, you can get orchestra accompaniments to play. Some of them are kind of click tracks. Some are things that you can actually play at the tempo that the director is doing it. A product was called Orc Extra, allowed you to say, I don't have trumpets. Okay, you can get a trumpet track that by a machine you can play at the tempo the director is directing your conductor is directing what your music is doing. That's more rental to pay. So easily a musical today could cost, I don't know, $10,000. Plus if you're renting costumes, if you're building set, if you're building set like a construction guy rather than like a theater guy, all of a sudden, tuba sixes are costing more than tuba fours. If you're not saving things, and some schools don't have the ability to store materials, they may trash everything. Well,
Right.
so my cheap way of thinking, tough to do. But, if you're paying $5 a ticket to go see a high school musical, boy, you're hoping they're making money somewhere,
Well,
or maybe selling a lot of tickets
that's
for the musical.
but that's actually what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So uh, at Benton Community, were you funded by? Did the school help you at all? I mean, obviously, facility, whatever, but was there any
Yeah,
funding directed towards theater?
we were lucky because we got a portion of activity ticket money because activity tickets admitted
Allowed you
students to the
in.
plays. So we got some money from that. A lot, nah. I mean, nothing like football would get or whatever, but we got something. I honestly, it's way too long ago to think about how much. Not all schools do that. Or maybe activity ticket might give you a discount to get into a play or musical
Right.
at the school. And if they do that, then you hope that they've budgeted to give some of that money to the school or to the program to help support because they're letting people in and losing that revenue. It doesn't cost me anything to let somebody in for free, but it
It
doesn't give me
does.
any
Oh,
revenue.
in the
It
yeah,
doesn't give me any
business,
revenue.
we in the
It's
world of business,
it's
we
lost
absolutely see
revenue.
that as a cost. That's a seat that you could have sold at a great anything. If the ticket price you gave $5 as an example, if the ticket price is $5 and you give it away to somebody, so then it's zero. Well, there would have been somebody who would have been willing to take it, maybe not for $5, but would have been willing to take it for $2 or whatever. So you can't write off. It's just you have to look at every seat not filled. I mean, the best at this and the best in the world at this is the airline industry. The airline industry's goal is never have an empty seat. That's their goal. Um,
Yeah.
and they're
To
willing to
our
do it as
discomfort.
such. If you book way in advance, if you're they're willing to do all these different things to make sure every seat is full. And you don't have that. You don't
Yeah.
obviously you don't have that ability with the high school theater, but But yeah, so the school was a little bit of funding, ticket sales. What else? And we've already talked in a previous show about like a bet and you had the fine arts promoters. What else?
Mhm. Maybe sponsorships. You go around and plead with companies or parents or whatever to sponsor, give you, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 50, $100, whatever your sponsorship levels are. And then you say, our gold sponsors are, our silver sponsors are, our bronze sponsors are, whatever levels you put that at. Producer, director, lead role, uh, walk on. You can create whatever fun kinds of levels you've got for that. Um, Maybe
Are
concession
area
sales.
businesses are area businesses, and I know you're still been involved with some local theater, whatever. Are area businesses as willing, or how are they willing? What's the willingness to do that now compared to the past? Because
I don't know because I
I know
didn't run
they
that program,
what?
but I can say this. You've got to realize that every sports team is tapping those same businesses.
Hmm.
And here at West Delaware, where I did a couple plays, every sports team is doing a poster, right? You got a poster for the girls cross country, the boys cross country, the golf team, the wrestling team, the girls basketball team, the boys basketball team, the girls wrestling team, the football team. All of those teams put together a poster. And then you go to their game and they probably got sponsors listed in the program or somewhere. Everybody's tapping the same people. And at
Right.
some point, fine arts, you hope, do not get um, to the short end of the stick on that and don't get anything. Some businesses are supportive. I can't tell you how many, but they usually do it, through ads or through sponsorships. Depends on the school to try and
Well,
help support that because ticket sales are really tough to pay for a big production. You've got to have every seat sold, and you may have some house tickets that you give away, like the directors are going to get tickets, and you
mhm.
may have a few others. You may give them to the superintendent, or teachers are probably going to get in. You may give it to the superintendent, board of education. Probably some good political
Right.
kinds of things to offer. They may buy, but you've made the offer. Um, so you've got some seats that you're not going to sell. You probably keep a few house tickets, and house tickets are intended to, oh, we've double sold your seat. Don't worry, I've got a ticket for you. Or somebody comes in and there's some kind of mess up, and you say, I've got tickets for you. Even the pros probably have house seats.
Hmm.
They're given away to celebs or whatever, that can get
Right.
in. Kind of like Ben Stiller talking about going to the basketball game for free, right? Oh, they gave me tickets.
Right.
Uh, you know, um, so you've got a few seats you probably don't sell, but you do hope to sell most. You want a high attendance because you've got to have that revenue. And if you're budgeting right, and that's where reusing materials in the theater is helpful because then your costs are contained to scripts, rental, royalty, costumes, paint, but not major construction pieces because I'm reusing pieces. So you're trying to, budget that. What's it going to cost me? What's my expected number of seats to sell? What's my ticket price? And royalties are sometimes governed in the high school level by ticket price. I expect to sell X number of seats at $10 a seat.
So the
Okay,
royalty they will charge, the royalty they will charge can be tied to your expected revenue.
yeah, as a percentage.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I expect to sell, so my theater seats 300. We expect to sell 200 seats a night for 3 nights. So I'm not going to sell 900 tickets. I'm only going to sell 600 tickets. And my tickets are going to be $10 a piece. Okay, what's that give you for royalty or for revenue?
600 times $5 is
or
$3,000.
time 10, $6,000.
Okay, six. Okay, yeah,
Okay, and the royalty will be 20%. I don't know. I'm just pulling
right.
out a figure. So if you're charging more, your royalty may be higher. If you're selling more seats, your royalty may be higher
Do they charge you the royalty in advance or they charge you post?
in
Like
advance.
in advance. So,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean, what?
And and
Okay.
and a lot of times it'll say, "What's your seating capacity?" And you say, "Well, my seating capacity is 300, but we expect to sell this many." So they can charge it on your capacity. but you usually can say, no, we expect to sell this many tickets per. History tells us that.
Hmm.
Um, they're in it to protect the playwright and their own business, right? They've got to have their money to run their business. Um, and that's why they don't like it when people invite people to come to a dress rehearsal, because per your contract, any public performance, anytime you have an audience, it's a public performance. And you pay royalty on a public performance. So having a dress rehearsal that the parents can come and see is a performance, right? Your church wants you to come and do a scene for the ladies' club in the church basement. Yeah, that's a performance. And if you do that and you don't pay royalty, the playwright is not getting the money that they should for producing that work of art, right? That's their intellectual property. So that's why people don't understand. Ah, when I was at LaPorte City, I think they had a problem because at some point, and schools can be blocked from renting from a company because they took and did musical numbers at the mall in back in the days of the mall, right? When there were a lot of people there, they set up and performed musical numbers kind of as publicity for the show at the mall and didn't pay royalty.
And so
The
because I
company
didn't
found out
do
about it.
so, but I mean that's bizarre in the sense that they didn't do the whole play, but they did enough of the play that the playwright. I mean, I don't know.
They performed two or three numbers. Hey, if you write a book, do you want people to give it away or do you want to pay for it?
Understood.
That's why
Understood.
when
But
you write something, you're going to read in there that, you can quote up to 30 words or what. You've seen
right.
verbiage for that, right? You can use portions of this, insubstantial portions, unsubstantial portions, in reviews and so forth. So you can quote, but if you're doing, a major portion of it, yeah, that's
That's a
your
great
intellectual
thing.
property.
As I was talking about regime change at the top of this, I can copy and paste because I have been taking good notes and copying and pasting into Word, whatever. It automatically footnotes where I got what where I got it from within the book and blah 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 blah. It does all the work for me, and I'm like, oh, this would make I'm jealous of today's students because it's automatically cited, and I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
Love it,
yeah.
love it. It's fantastic. But also I'm like, this I felt the need to say, we had to walk 6 miles uphill, and if you were typing and you made an error, it took so much more, I just all the things that make me jealous of today's students when it's so easy for me to copy and paste into Word, and I'm like, oh wow.
And you
Um,
could probably tell it which format it's going to do the bibliography in.
yeah, yeah. It asked me up front
Chicago,
which
MLA,
I wanted.
whatever.
Do
It's
I
just
want MLA? Do I want blah 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 blah. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Oh, yeah. Back in the day, you had to do a footnote. If you typed too much and the footnote wouldn't fit, had to redo the whole page, right?
yep.
That's why I liked endnotes. I thought endnotes made great sense.
I, I, it's funny you say that. I have told my students forever that because now that it's easy to do a footnote within the page, I want you to do a footnote within the page. Um, and so, but yeah, back in the day, I hated doing endnotes, or footnotes for that reason. Yeah. So, anything else on funding? Because I mean, what's interesting to me is that from the thing I've gleaned from what you've said is that it is more your concerns are more on the cost side, keeping them low. You weren't obviously you want revenue, but you were more worried about keeping the costs low to make it work. Whereas I expected going into this conversation that your goal was publicity, your goal was how to maximize revenue, but you were more in you from what you've described. Am I reading you right? Is that
Well, I think I would say it's both.
okay?
It's both. I want to maximize ticket sales, you bet. I also want to control costs. So I'm just looking at the budget from both ends. Interestingly, I just wrote to a former student uh, who directs for theater Cedar Rapids. Matt, and I quoted to him something I heard years ago, and that is the difference between for-profit and not-for-profit theater. How was it? In not-for-profit theater, Financial decisions are made for artistic reasons. In for-profit theater, artistic decisions are made for financial reasons.
Yes. Yes. Got it.
And so in
That-
the high school, you're probably a little bit more in the for-profit. Any student that graduates in theater and goes to direct at high school that doesn't understand to some degree they're running a very small business
yeah.
is missing the point, right?
Yeah.
Because you get some activity ticket money that goes into your account, and you hope that you get to control your own account. You get your ticket sales, you get your whatever sponsorships, you get your donations, um, and you're looking at the money, and you use the musical because the musical is the one where you're going to make your biggest bucks to support your straight play if you're doing only 2 shows a year. If you're doing more than that, you hope that somehow between all the productions that you do, you can have enough revenue come in to more than cover your expenses for the year. Because in any not-for-profit, and I've said this so many times, including a couple boards I'm on, you got to remember, no margin, no mission. That not-for-profit does not mean you cannot make a profit. It tells you where it can go. You can't give it to people. You can't give it to stockholders. But you've got to have a margin there. You've got to run at a profit to keep your mission, your theater program,
Right.
going where it's going to end. So it's fun. That's part of what you do. Part of your time is sitting down, either working out a budget or knowing you don't have to worry about it because you've got a big enough bank account in your activity account or whatever.
Well,
And picking shows that have some appeal, not doing shows that don't have an appeal. But I always like to do shows that had some meat to them too. They were kind of out of the canon, out of the recognized titles. And some of them are kind of old. Moss Hart and George F. Kaufman, right? The Man Who Came to Dinner. You Can't Take It With You. Terrific plays, not modern, but terrific plays. Uh, and not, I don't know, Sally Sells Her Cat kind of thing. But there are new plays that are coming out that are good plays too, that do well and give students good roles to deal with. And that's what I thought is important too. Hey,
okay. I think we'll wrap that up there. We for our cocktail chatter, I will just my cocktail chatter is a piggyback on exactly this topic, which is somehow or another in the past week it came up. There was a conversation on Facebook that involved uh, Rob and now his Rob Beatty, who had the task of throwing me over his shoulder and carrying me, as you talk about steps, carrying me up the steps in arsenic and old lace. And
oh,
and
Rob played Teddy in that
he
show.
played Teddy.
Yes.
He played Teddy, and I played not one but two dead bodies. And the reason I got that job was number one, I can't act, and number two, I only weighed 120 pounds, and so he could lift me up and throw me over and carry me out. But the reason this is cocktail chatter with you is that I actually have a question for you because I don't remember the particulars, but I do know that I had to spend a ridiculous amount of time in a very small box, and I am claustrophobic. But that the audience during the whole first act, perhaps,
The
um,
window. So you were in the window seat.
I was in the window seat, but somehow or another, the audience knew that I had to be in there for the whole first act because when he picked me up, the audience gasped every time because they realized that I had to have been in there and they didn't realize there was a body there. Um, Yeah. So I don't just yeah. So anyhow, yeah, my claim to fame is two different dead bodies and only because I weighed 120 pounds.
Yeah. And Rob was one young man who started bodybuilding in high school.
Oh yeah. What brought it up was one of his friends, Dale Sabeka was a cross country runner, and Rob and him were diehard cross country runners. And I know to this day, Rob's actually won some awards for his teams running cross country teams to this day. So that's what got the conversation going was a cross country discussion. That then I'm like, yeah, and by the way, you had to carry me. You probably couldn't carry me now, and it's not because you're not strong, but I don't weigh 120 pounds anymore. So anyway, that's my
None of us do.
okay. Your
You-
cocktail chatter.
One thing I admire about you, and a bit envious, is that we have traveled hmm, quite a bit since 2017 when Linda and I started traveling. We're no longer able to do it. Linda isn't able to travel anymore, but we've traveled to a lot of countries. You've traveled a whole lot more of the world than we have. So if you could name, I don't know, I was going to say one, but I can't name one. What's your three, four, five favorite cities you've or places you've visited?
Well, I mean,
And if you want to
Nepal's
say,
hands
one
down.
or two.
Nepal is hands down my favorite place on earth. So that's easy.
The
Um,
the what is? I'm
Nepal,
sorry.
Nepal.
Oh, Nepal.
Or as President Trump in his first term referred to it as nipple. He did not. He truly pronounced it nipple. Can't make that up. That's a true fact. Um, but Nepal is. I mean, it's just when you're somewhere and truly the the mountains are always present in your view. There's just something about that that is very settling. And we like to think we have mountains in America. The Rockies don't hold nothing, whatever. So Nepal. In Europe, hands down, my favorite country is Spain. Just
Hmm.
because I consider Spain to be, I refer to Spain as half the price is all the everything great you expect from Italy for half the price. And my second
Hmm.
favorite country is Germany. I really do. I've never had a bad, and I also love France. I really do love the places I visited. And unlike there are some people who are like, oh, I can't stand Paris. I'm like, how can you not stand Paris? Right now, for the record, today their high temperature was over 100 degrees, and nowhere
Yeah,
is
I've
air
heard.
conditioned in Paris. So I wouldn't want to be there today. But I mean, Paris is anyhow. So I would just put the question back to you. Of the places you visited, what have you liked the most?
Have you watched our time? Are we at the
We have
point
10
we should
minutes left.
stop
We're okay.
uh, for 20 minutes?
We have 10 minutes left. Go.
Okay. Okay. I hate to go too long. I'm like you. I can't necessarily focus on one. Places we visited. I love St. Petersburg. We got 2 days there with a guide, saw just wonderful things. St. Petersburg was fascinating to me. The Hermitage,
I
uh,
am jealous of you on that. I will never get to go there. Given our relationship with Russia
exactly,
now, it's never going to happen.
exactly. On the opposite end of the opulence of that, by the way, most of that was destroyed and then rebuilt after the war.
Hmm.
So the beautiful palaces, are not necessarily original. They were destroyed in the war and then rebuilt. Beautiful. I love St. Petersburg. On the opposite end of opulence was like Eidsfjord, Sweden. Little town up in the mountains where they knit sweaters around the trees. They're fascinating. I love my pictures of it. They have these knit things around the trees there. Just peaceful. We visited a fellow who made violins. We could not take any pictures. He made a eight-string violin. I honestly couldn't have pictures, so I can't remember, but it was a multi-string violin, not just four strings. Beautiful, beautiful handiwork that he did. So that's at the opposite end. Uh, I really liked Greece and
It's
the
still on my bucket list. I haven't been there, and I have a good friend who
places
lives
we
there. This is when there's a place where I have a good friend who lives there, and Marina is just like, when are you coming to? Anyhow, yeah,
Well, you do need you need to go to Delphi. You need to do all the touristy things in the history,
yeah.
right? The Theater at Epidaurus, we've been there. Delphi, some places that were just magnificent to look at that they've recovered artifacts from and so forth. Uh, Along with that, I also in the tour of Greece and got to Santorini. By the way, that picture of the one church, the beautiful white church with the blue domes. That's the one church in the city that everybody gets a picture of, right?
Right.
But it's a beautiful city to be. Epidaurus, I've been in twice. Very fascinating to go to Ephesus to go there and see the Roman ruins there. It's just beautiful. I loved Greece. I loved the food. It was wonderful. So yeah, I'm kind of touristy. I like to see the highlights, and I did really like Barcelona. I've only seen Barcelona in Spain, but Sagrada Familia is magnificent.
Hmm.
Magnificent. People say don't go to Park Güell. I would say do go to Park Güell because you get a real sense of Gaudí and his desire for design, his dislike for straight lines, lots of curves. It's just it fascinated me. It's probably not a spectacular Sagrada Familia, but it's fascinating to see that. So I'm kind of like you. I don't think we've been any place I didn't like.
Oh, I
Um,
I do have one I didn't like. So it's funny you bring this up. This was also a question on somebody posted on Facebook a while back. Is there any city you regret visiting? And yes, there is one for me, and that's Phnom Penh in Cambodia.
oh,
The
okay.
entire city smelled like sewer, like all the time. We went because I had to see the killing fields, and it really is. I have never cried more. Well, between that and visiting Dhaka. Those are the two places that
Dachau.
you can't
Yeah.
you can't not bawl your eyes out nonstop.
Yeah.
But
I,
Phnom Penh,
yeah.
ugh, ugh.
Well, and you mentioned that, there's just fascinating things in Europe because we think America's old at 250 years. You're looking at things in Europe that are, thousands of years old, and you're looking at things that may be only 100 years old, but have such an impact. And that is that, oh my gosh, I can't think of it. When we were in Poland, visited a concentration camp there, which is very moving.
Right.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I got, lots of pictures from that that, just reside in my phone. I don't know, they're all over. I did give them to, I printed some and gave them to one of the middle school teachers because she teaches Diary of Anne Frank. So she could have some pictures of concentration camps. And, I have a picture of a gas chamber. There was a gas chamber there.
Well, that
A picture
that
of,
is.
of the ovens. There were like three ovens in a building right next to it. Um, well, it
I
didn't bring
found
me to
myself
tears.
I found myself alone inside the gas chamber. So in the giant room, gas chamber room, I found myself alone inside of it, and I just tried to. I it's and you see how it let the air escape, and no, anyhow, it is, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to end on that. That's not a good where but
That's the beauty of travel. People need
yeah,
to get out of their own little world.
yeah.
So we've
And
never done France, never done Paris.
we are incredibly lucky as people who speak English in that English really is the universal language. And it is I've never been anywhere where I couldn't find somebody who spoke English.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you can have an app on your phone that automatically translates.
Yeah.
And
But you go to Sweden and everybody speaks English. You go to Estonia, people don't speak Estonian because nobody's learning it, maybe natives. They all speak English.
right,
You go to Sweden and don't worry about getting cash because everybody uses plastic. On the way in from the airport, they said, "Oh, don't worry about money, just use plastic. We even buy bubble gum with plastic."
right,
So, yeah, it's easy to travel. Not inexpensive, but easy to do.
right.
Hey, is
That's
it a wrap?
that's a great place to end it. Thank you all, and see you next week. Bye bye.